Hello everyone, you are welcome to GH Africa TV. If this is your first time of watching a video on our platform, kindly subscribe to our channel and click on the bell notification icon to always get an update from us whenever we upload a new video. My name is Nino and I'm glad to have you all here. Now, Keda, you are my guest. Can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Yes, I am Keda or Keeds, whichever one. I go by both. I currently am in South Korea. I spent the last about 6 years living in between South Korea and the United States. I used to be a teacher. I no longer teach, but I still have a passion for kids. I am now kind of going back and forth between South Korea and Washington, D.C. And I do like to make content online, which is where I was asked to be a part of this series. So thank you so much for asking me to be on this. I'm excited. That's it.
Okay, so before we start with our conversation, I want us to look at life in America. You know, like many will love to visit the States. So how is life in America?
Life in America, I mean, life in America is fine. It's what I'm used to living in America. I've lived in America the longest that I've lived in any of the other countries. America is where I was born. I was born in the District of Columbia. It's where I spent most of my life. So I'm very comfortable there as well. I like living in America. It's the cost of living everywhere is just insane, including, you know, Korea's kind of trickling up. But overall, it's where my family lives, most of my family. It's where a lot of my childhood is. So I love my country. Not everything about it, because I really need our healthcare to step it up. I don't know what we're doing. But I still love living in the States.
Great. Any nice places for tourists to visit whenever they come to the States?
Oh, where would I suggest people to come visit in the States? Okay, so clearly I'm always going to suggest New York. New York is like my favorite city / state in the world. Now, don't get it misunderstood. New York is a beast. New York is a lot. New York can be overwhelming. But New York also has everything you kind of need. Like, you can find anything in the world, I think, in New York, maybe besides a clean beach. I love that city. I'm from Florida. I'm from Orlando. And if you do like the theme parks, I would always suggest go to Disney World in Orlando. What's the other one? Universal Studios, that whole Wet n Wild. Oh, actually, Wet n Wild is not open anymore. I'm sorry. All the little theme parks. Go there. Go Orlando / Tampa, because Tampa has Busch Gardens. And then maybe one more. What's another place? I like Seattle. I've been to Seattle once. I went during the winter season, so it was a little gloomy, but I think the city is cool. I think the city has a vibe. And if you're outdoorsy, you get that there. So I think that's a little bit of everything in those three cities and states.
Wow, this is lovely. Let's start with our conversation then. I think many would love to hear from you why you chose South Korea. Why South Korea?
South Korea was chosen because my then boyfriend at the time, his mom randomly texted us and asked both of us if we wanted to go to South Korea to teach. South Korea wasn't even on my radar. Like, I'd always wanted to live overseas, but South Korea for some reason never even crossed my mind. Like you, I was thinking, oh, maybe I can go somewhere in Africa, maybe I can go somewhere in Europe. But when that opportunity presented itself, I felt like it was God telling me to do it, because I was just talking to him about wanting to live overseas. And then the next day his mom sends us this message. So I was like, oh, it's a sign. Okay, South Korea it is. So that's how I ended up in South Korea, was just my friend's mom.
Oh, okay. So besides South Korea, have you visited other countries?
Yes. I mean, I've lived out of the country. So I'm also Jamaican. So I spent the first 8 years of my life living in Jamaica. Other than living in Jamaica and living in the States, I've only lived in South Korea for full time. I've traveled, but I've never lived any other places besides Jamaica, the US, and now Korea.
Oh, okay. That's great. I want us to talk about life in South Korea. You know, like many would love to visit South Korea. So how will you describe life in South Korea?
Life in South Korea is really comfortable. And that's something that I talk to my friends about all the time. Korea is very convenient. The transportation, A1, like you can get anywhere in this country. You do not need a car. And I love that for me. I can drive. I've had my license since I was 16, but like not having to drive love it. Next thing, it's quite inexpensive. Like food, even like your housing, aside from your key deposit, the monthly payments are much cheaper than you would find in DC or New York or LA. So there's a level of comfortability here. And also the safety. Like I feel very comfortable walking outside and not being like afraid to like constantly look behind me like I would, clearly in the States. So yeah, life in Korea is comfortable. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's perfect. There are, things that women go through, like there is, violence that women go through that are undocumented, especially with foreigners, and also again, I'll just bring up aside from the language barrier, you also kind of have that cultural barrier. So though you live in Korea, you'll never be Korean. And so you're kind of always on the outside of the society. But I don't even take that as a negative anymore. It's just what it is. I'm just pointing it out. So yeah, that's life in Korea. It's simple, it's easy, it's fast paced in Seoul. But if you want a little bit of break, you can go out to the country. So, I mean, I think their pros far outweigh the cons for me living here.
It's simple, it's easy, and it's fast paced. Let's look at the cost of living in South Korea. How is the cost of living in South Korea?
The rent. Okay, so it depends on where exactly you live. Clearly, if you're living in the bigger cities, Seoul, Busan, you'd be spending what we call as a key deposit, which is basically like your security deposit. That usually ranges anywhere from about 5 million won to it can go up towards like 20 million won. You can figure out that conversion depending on where your country's located. So the key deposit is quite expensive, but you do get the key deposit once your contract is over, right? Like you'll get that back as long as you didn't like clearly butcher the place down. And then your monthly rent usually ranges on the low end. You can have like a $500 unit apartment, but it's probably pretty small, especially if you're in like Seoul. Or you can have maybe a 1,500 to 2,000 or 2 million won apartment. I would say kind of in the middle. Most people usually have about a 700, at least my friends, to about 1,500. That's kind of like the middle range. And it's a pretty nice place, pretty big. The location's usually pretty good if you're going to spend a little bit, about 1,500. So yeah, that's how it is. The only thing I know a lot of us complain about is a key deposit, because the key deposit can be quite high. But like I said, you get that money back. So just think of it as like savings. You're just saving it. It's gone. You're not going to spend it. So yeah.
Are there job opportunities for foreigners or expats to do whenever they come to South Korea?
Like I said, most of the foreigners here are English teachers. Outside of English teaching, you do have a lot of people within the entertainment visa, which is like the E6 visa. So maybe the models, the dancers, the podcasters, not many podcasters, but you have a few. So anyone within like the entertainment realm. You also do have people that are here for like a STEM, which is like, not STEM, more like like engineering. We do have quite, a few people that are here for engineering. And so they've come through an American company or a Western company or a company in another country. It just has a location in South Korea. So there's that possibility. Another girl that I interviewed a couple years ago, maybe last year, I think she's a marketing major here now. She has a company, she doesn't have a company. She works for a company that's in marketing. And so she works for a Korean brand, but markets to the English-speaking audience. So she'll promote their social media. So yeah, there's quite a lot. There's also the factory workers. I know that there's a little touchy subject because there's a lot going on with the factory workers, but I'm just giving you the question that you asked. And then there's hospitality. So if you are in locations that have a lot of foreigners, the restaurants, the bars, the hotels, they may also want workers there too, or need workers there too.
Oh, okay. I want us to look at some of the challenges that many go through or face whenever they travel to another country. What are some of the challenges or struggles? What are some of the struggles or challenges that many face, or maybe you yourself you faced when you first entered South Korea?
Well, I'll say the struggles I went through. The first thing was just adjusting to the language barrier. And I know you guys, there's people in my comments that have said, how would you go to a country not speak fluent? It's possible, and a lot of us do it. I learned as I went. So I guess the language barrier would be number one. The second one was just being so far away from like your family and your friends and having to watch all of like the holidays through a phone and FaceTime. You get used to it, but it's never easy, especially during Christmas, Thanksgiving, those type of times. And I guess it would just be overall learning, or like the independence that you have to like get to, you know, like back home, I had family, I had lifelong friends. So if I felt something were to happen, I had friends that were going to be there or family that was going to be there to help. South Korea, I had no one. Like I literally started from zero, no friends, no family. So I really had to just knock into my independence. And that took me some time to get, you know, it took me a little bit of time before I was able to do things by myself. But luckily, I was able to build a community here. So I didn't have to do things alone for very long.
Oh, okay. So what about surprising moments? Were there any surprising moments?
You know what? Like nothing really surprised me because honestly, before I came here, I knew it was vastly different. Like I'd done some YouTube videos, I'd Googled. So I'd done my research. I knew for the most part what to expect. So I just knew how different it was going to be. So there was literally nothing that I came here that I was just like, it was just like, oh, I'm in another country. I know that I'm not going to get exactly what I'm used to back home. I guess if I had to choose, seeing a squatty potty for the first time in person, I guess, but it wasn't a surprise. I knew it was there. I guess it was just seeing it like, oh yeah, these exist. Okay, cool. But yeah, other than that, nothing was like a huge surprise. It was just really fun and exciting to just like see all these different things and be a part of all these different things.
Oh, okay. Let's look at cultural differences. Any cultural differences you've noticed between America and South Korea? Any cultural differences you've noticed?
Right. So, Americans, and people have said this over and over, we're quite vocal, like we're pretty loud, right? I think I've seen so many people say, oh my gosh, anytime an American walks anywhere, you know they're there. So I would agree, because in Korea, everyone's very like, you won't walk on to the bus and hear like a bunch of people talking. You're not going to hear someone like yelling on the phone. For the most part, it happens here and there, but generally speaking, yeah, no, that doesn't happen. So I am, like I said, I am American, and even though I'm not very loud, I think in comparison to Koreans, I'm probably very loud and probably a lot more extroverted. So yeah, aside just from our level of like our volume, I think we're just more extroverted. You know, we are very much like telling you how it is, whereas Koreans, they're not very confrontational. Americans will be like, hey, I didn't like what you did and don't do it again. Koreans, not so much, at least from what I've experienced. I don't want to generalize, but from my experience, they don't really approach situations head on. And neither of them is either right or wrong. It's just what I've noticed. And another thing, I think the difference is just, I guess, the overall appearance of Koreans, and not just necessarily Korean versus Americans. I mean, like the clothes that we wear, like how we present to the world. Americans can be a little bit more individualistic, where you can have someone that literally looks completely different but live in the same building, whereas Koreans tend to kind of dress similar, right? Like have similar mannerisms. Americans, you just kind of get, it's a little hodgepodge of everything. You don't really know what you're going to get. So I think those are the largest differences I've noticed over the last 6 years. And I know I'm forgetting some, but that's just what I can think of right in this immediate moment.
Any financial tip advice to anyone who wants to travel abroad?
Again, it depends on what your reason to come to Korea is. Some people come to Korea as, a lot of the times, English teachers. English teachers get free housing, and so they're able to save a lot more. Some teachers come here and they don't care to save. They're coming here to have a good time. They're coming here to party. They're coming here to travel to close by countries. So that's their focus. So if that's your focus, I can't help you. Actually, I can. That's what I did the first year. I just had a great time. I did not save money. Wasn't counting pennies, anything like that. I went to a bunch of trips. When I did start saving money, which was my second year, what I did every payday. So a lot of the teachers, you get paid once a month. Every payday, I went to the bank like clockwork, and I took out, I think it was like $1,500 or something like that. And I stashed it inside of my house. Now, I'm not telling you to keep your money in your house. I know how people feel about that. I did, because once money's out of my account, I feel like it doesn't exist. Like I don't have it. So I just did it for 12 months. I was able to save over $10,000 that second year, just because I made sure I did that once a month. You don't have to take out $1,500. You can decide exactly how much you want to save based on what your goals are for that, like that year or wherever that you're working. My goal was to save at least $1,500. So if you're like me, and if your money's in your account, you feel like you could spend it, take it, remove it, move it to another account, send it, do whatever you got to do with it, get it out. Because for me, like if it's in my hand, it's hot, I want to spend. So that's how I was able to save $10K that second year.
Nice one. So I want to ask you this question. Is it true that Korean men enjoys dating and marrying foreign ladies? Is this true?
Yeah, I mean, men are gonna date anybody. It's like, you know, like if men are attracted to men, if men finds a woman attractive, it doesn't matter if she is Korean, American, African, if they are attracted to her, they're gonna want to date her. So there's no difference with the men in South Korea. They're gonna want to date you if you are attractive and they find you attractive. I will say clearly, South Korea is a lot more homogenous and a bit more conservative. So overall, Koreans tend to date within their own culture. Koreans tend to marry Koreans. Koreans tend to date Koreans. Now, if they do date outside their race, I would say it usually goes to maybe like another East Asian country first, right? Like China, maybe Japan. And then if they do, you know, date someone else, yeah, if they're open to dating outside of their race and outside of their culture, they're going to do it. And why not? You know, especially with all these foreigners coming to South Korea now, with like the influx of BTS and everyone's running here trying to find their oppa, which please stop doing that. It's really weird. So yeah, if you're here and you're trying to find a man, you might find him, you might not. Just come here not having these expectations that you're gonna find Park Seo-joon, because you're probably not. You might find somebody else though. So just be open to it. Just don't have high expectations, I guess.
So don't have high expectations. Kida, I want us to play a game here. It's a game we sometimes play though. It's a game we sometimes play. Which country has the most attractive men?
I'm going to be 100% honest, and I'm not even just saying this to like be a pick me. I don't think one country has the most handsome men. And I will stand by that, because before I came to Korea, I never not that I never thought Koreans were handsome. I just there weren't a lot of Koreans in my area, right? There wasn't a lot of people that I can like say, oh, this person's Korean. Like we didn't have a huge Korean community. So I had nothing to draw from. So when I came here, I was like, oh, wow, like there's so many attractive Koreans, right? And same thing when I went to Thailand, like I had never really seen a lot of Thai people in my city. And then when I went to Thailand, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of, so there are attractive men in every country. There's not one country that I think more men are attractive in. They're everywhere. Don't call me a pick me, because if you've traveled, you know what I'm talking about. So nah, I'm gonna stand 10 toes down. Men are fine all over the world.
But still Ghana ranks first because I'm from Ghana.
But you know what? Ghana's a good one. Ghana's a good one. Listen, I'm telling you right now, I haven't been to Ghana, so I haven't seen it for myself. Now the guys that I do know that are Ghanaian, they are attractive. But again, I can only pull from the very small pool of people I know. I need to go to the land and then see it. But I am 100% sure. I know I'm going to find attractive men in Ghana. I'm going to find attractive men in Nigeria. I'm going to find, like I said, everywhere. But there's also unattractive men. Okay, so don't get it twisted. Okay, yes, they are very attractive, but there's also a bunch of non-attractive to me. Don't come for me, please. Okay, that's it. I'm sorry.
You gave a financial tip advice to anyone who wants to travel abroad. Now, in general, I want you to give a general advice to anyone who wants to travel abroad.
It does depend on where you are in life. Like if you're younger, you're about 25, you're 30. So it really does depend, but I would say choose a country and work towards it. Right, wherever that country is, it doesn't have to be anywhere in Asia. It doesn't have to be anywhere. It could be literally maybe another city over from you, but you've never done it. Use Facebook. I utilize the heck out of Facebook. Facebook groups are amazing. Literally search the city and then maybe say like expats in and then the country. Or if you're a person of color or black people in said country. And then you literally have like a hodgepodge of information, because these are just regular people that are living in this country, and you can find all the information you need, like best places to go, best places to stay, best places to eat, places to avoid. So yeah, join those Facebook groups. Also Reddit. I know Reddit has like a bad like view because there's a lot of good place that I utilized a lot. And YouTube, watch the videos of people that look like you, that, you know, that are from the same country. Basically just utilize the internet. That is one of the beautiful things of living in this century. We have access to all this information. So gather all the information that you can and then make the best decision for you.
Great. Kida, any shout outs to family, friends? You can also add up your social media handles to it if only you want to do so.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know if I want to, I mean, shout outs to everyone that I met throughout my journeys living abroad, anyone that I've, you know, crossed paths, even living back in the States, living in Jamaica. All of the people I've met throughout my life have literally helped me in some way, even very small or very big. You've all helped me this way to be the person that is confident enough to travel the world and not allow my fear and just the fear of the world to dictate what I do. And also shout outs to myself, because I did that. I literally moved over here by myself, got a whole podcast, and like wrote a book. Like, shout outs to me too. And if you're doing it too, and you are living overseas, shout outs to you. And if you're not, and you're still worried and you're still not there yet, it'll take time. Just put something in your mind and work towards it. And to plug myself, you can follow me at The Sobe Pod. That's TheSobepod. I interview people. We talk about a bunch of different cultural topics. And I also share the experiences of expats and travelers. And you can also, if you'd like, just follow my personal on at Miss Keeds, MISSKEEDS. That's kind of where I share my more day-to-day, going to the gym, going to eat. So follow me there. And also, last thing I'm going to plug, I did write a children's book. It's called Kimimani, the Girl Made of Magic. It's written in English and in Korean. It's about Kimimani, who's a biracial Black American and Korean girl. And it's about just embracing all that she is and loving herself. So that's it. And I want to thank you so much for reaching out to me and asking me to be a part of this. I'm excited to see the video. And that's it. That's a wrap for me.